This past few days, we've had a pretty explosive story. A retired general, Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor to the president, said that there should be a Myanmar-style coup in the United States. Now, he didn't specifically say it. He didn't come out, get on stage and say, we need to have a military coup like they had in Myanmar. What happened was, the guy asked a question. He said, I'm a simple Marine and I want to know why, what's the reason why what happened in Myanmar can't happen here. He said Myanmar, it's Myanmar. And Michael Flynn said, no reason. I mean, it should happen here. And everyone clapped and cheered. Michael Flynn is now denying this, and I do not accept it. Sorry, his denial is fake news. I'm not a fan. If you want to go to these conferences and you want to keep saying this stuff and you want to rally a bunch of people, including many Coup people, which is very damaging to the actual hard work that's being done, trying to secure elections, trying to make sure that people are confident in the system moving forward, which is very difficult to do. You don't go around saying things like this. Sorry. For those that aren't familiar, in Myanmar, the military said there was election fraud, came in, took over, protests, civilians dead. Not a good thing. Last night, I had a conversation with Matt Brainerd. You may be familiar with Matt Brainerd, one of the foremost experts on voter integrity issues. I'll put it that way. So we had Joe Kent on the show. He's running for office. And then in the bonus segment over at timcast.com, we talked about some very serious things that YouTube will ban me for if I say here. So Matt Brainerd talked about Arizona and what's to come, and he said, buckle up. Go check that out. Go to timcast.com, become a member, watch that segment. The reason we do members only segments is so that we can keep doing the work that we do. You got to be a member. So I know it's always tough when there's really important information that should be out. I wouldn't say that the conversation was like a bunch of crazy official statements made. It was kind of just a vague conversation. We're not done yet. The audits are still happening. Some stuff happens in New Hampshire. Check that out. But here's why I bring this up. Again, timcast.com, sign up, become a member, help support our work, listen to what he says. This is why I'm not happy with what Michael Flynn has said. The QAnon people, in my opinion, are some of it's some of the worst possible. It's the worst possible thing, in my opinion, for people like Matt Brainerd. Right now, there's an audit happening in New Hampshire, and they found that they said, this is the auditor said, no fraud, but there was a glitch with the machine where folds in the ballots were causing misreads, either taking votes away, not counting votes, or just giving them to the Democrat. Okay, we got a very serious problem there. Now, I don't know what we can do in the meantime. I think all that really means is moving forward, let's make sure we avoid these problems. It's good news. But when you get people coming out saying, doing these conferences, talking about the Kraken and a bunch of other weird nonsense, it makes it really difficult to investigate what's actually happening and any potential errors in the system. So a lot of people demand of me that I come out and just say things that they agree with. I'm not going to do that. There's a few reasons. If we can't prove it, we don't say it. And in order to actually prove it, you need a clean investigation. Stories like this distract from that and escalate political tensions. Let's talk more about it. Let me show you what Michael Flynn is saying now. I'll show you what he really said, because I'm not going to stand for, look, he said it, he said it. Maybe he didn't understand what really happened in, they actually put Myanmar, okay. Maybe he didn't understand what actually happened there. Let's read. Daily Mail says Michael Flynn denies telling a QAnon conference that a Myanmar-style coup should happen in the U.S., despite footage from event showing him call for one. Michael Flynn has backtracked on comments he made at a Coup conference this weekend, where he said a military coup similar to the one that happened in Myanmar earlier this year should happen in the U.S. The retired general, who briefly served as the national security advisor under Trump, made the comments in response to a question from an audience member at a conference organized by supporters of QAnon. The man said he was a simple Marine and asked, why what happened in he says Myanmar, it's Myanmar. Why what happened in Myanmar can't happen here? There's no reason, Flynn responded as the audience cheered. I mean, it should happen. That's right. Response to the exchange was furious, with some calling for his court-martial. On Monday, Flynn issued a frantic backtrack in a post on messaging app Telegram. He wrote, "Let me be very clear. There is no reason whatsoever for any coup in America. I do not and have not at any time called for any action of the sort. Any reporting of any other belief by me is a bold-faced fabrication based on twisted reporting at a lively panel at a conference of patriotic Americans who love this country just as I do. I am no stranger to media manipulating my words, and therefore let me repeat my response to a question asked at the conference. Then he says, there is no reason it should happen here. He says, in parentheses, there is no reason a coup, should happen here in America. Nah, that's a lie. That's not what he said. He said, no reason. I mean, it should happen here. That's right. I'm not going to play these games. When Michael Flynn comes out and says this and then lies, this is a very serious problem. I'll tell you why it's a very serious problem for a variety of reasons. One, it's going to rile a bunch of people to do crazy things. If a bunch of people go out and do crazy things, it makes it very difficult to actually do real investigations. When people come out and claim that the moon is made of cheese or, that we didn't land on the moon, they say, then all of a sudden, any attempt at inquiry is muddled up with this trash. So I talked to Matt Brainerd about it. This is the guy, foremost expert, one of on election integrity issues. And he points out in the segment at timcast.com that when you're trying to file these suits and you get this Kraken nonsense flooding the courts, they don't take it seriously. So if you have 100 inquiries, 100 questions being sent to people, and 99 are insane Coup Kraken nonsense, and one is legitimate, they say, I can't read these. They've flooded the zone with crap, making it impossible to actually do the real work. That's what you get with this. So now, I'll tell you what Flynn has done? He has given clear and concrete evidence to the mainstream media and their propaganda activists of the lie. He shouldn't have said it. And then instead of just saying, you know what, I shouldn't have said it, I misunderstood, he said, no, I didn't say that. He did. I bring you now to ground.news. They've given us a bias distribution breakdown. 34 of these news sources are bias rated, 16 lean left. 29% of the stories are from the right, 24 from the center, and 47 from the left. You got these good far left outlets reporting. Ground News headline, Michael Flynn calls for coup in the U.S. Retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who served briefly as President Trump's national security advisor, he said, coup. Let me see if I can play this so you can hear it. It might not play properly, but let me try.
I'm a simple Marine. I want to know why what happened in Myanmar can't happen here.
No reason. I mean, it should happen here. No reason. But that's right.
No reason. I mean, it should happen here. No reason. That's right. He then posts on his Telegram, quote, there is no reason it should happen here. Nah, that's a backtrack. I get it. He might get in trouble. Maybe he regrets saying it, but he said it. And I see a lot of this with the conspiracy, fringe right that's making it very difficult for people to do the real work. Even InfoWars isn't playing this game. Check this out. I think we have this. Is this? Yeah. InfoWars says left calls for court-martial of General Flynn after he suggested Myanmar-style coup should happen in the U.S. You don't got InfoWars on this one. Here you go. Red State. Michael Flynn calls for Myanmar-style coup because why not? I mean, it goes on. I got Newsmax to say the same thing. We got Washington Times. Michael Flynn says coup should happen and denies claim in Parler Post. You can't do it, man. This is clearly not what he said. And what I see is Flynn probably regretted saying it. It's going to rile up a bunch of people. It's going to, I'll say, indirectly incite people because I don't think he didn't come out and say, I want you to go do this. He said it should happen. And it's kind of like that saying, oh, won't someone rid me of this priest? And then the guy goes out and does it. And he's like, no, I didn't really mean it. Oh, no. So I believe it is free speech. Michael Flynn is protected by, I don't think it makes sense that he would be court-martialed over this. A lot of people are saying he's inciting insurrection. Saying something should happen, it's the borderline. He's calling for it, but not so much where he's saying, I want you to go do this. I want people to do this. He said, it should happen, And he backtracked. So this is what I see happening with a lot of the Q stuff. Someone comes out, they get a crowd, they're riled up, and they say what the crowd wants to hear. And that is not the way things should work. So I love it. I got some reviews on this podcast the other day. You know, the weekly digest email I get, and I get 2 1-star reviews. And you know what? So be it. The first one was, "You're wrong, Tim." You know, claiming a bunch of stuff about a fraud and saying I need to admit what really happened with the election. Blah blah blah. The next one below it said, "Please point on the doll where the nasty Democrat hurt you." And I'm like, it's great when you get, you know, the Coup people and the Democrats ragging on you. It's bad for business. It's a fact. Those 2 negative reviews are going to impact my ranking on iTunes. It's going to make it harder for people to come and find this content. And it means I won't be likely as big as, say, CNN or whatever. Now, I accept that. You know, we're trying to weed through the trash. We're trying to figure out what really happened, and it's very difficult. A lot of people are convinced they know everything because they don't read much of anything. And that could be the left and the right. I always tell people, you got to watch more than my show. You got to read more than just one source. But there are a lot of people that get their information from just a Trump forum, for instance. It's like, well, you got to read other things. I personally believe the right tends to be more correct than the left does because the mainstream media just lies all the time for money. And the people on the right tend to be driven by more so ideology, in a sense. It's hard to explain. The media, CNN, you know, Vox, whatever, they've got a bottom line. But, you know, Joe Schmo on the internet has a passion project, what they believe in. So there's a double-edged sword there. Those who are too involved in tribalism end up spouting deranged conspiracy nonsense. And then many on the left do the same thing with wokeness. So you've got to be careful for the actual grifters, which exist on both sides. But when it comes to media from many conservatives and people on the left, there is a difference. The mainstream media is wholly corporate and interested in supporting the establishment as well as making tons of money. And many on the right are fighting the establishment. So it's a clear path right now. People on the right, anti-woke, anti-establishment individuals, it's not hard to be like, that's a lie from the mainstream media when they put out lie after lie after lie. So if you are simply debunking the lies of the mainstream media, you'll more likely be correct. But then you get stuff like this from Flynn, and I think everybody needs to call it out. We need to make sure that the conspiracy stuff, the actual fringe nonsense, doesn't muck up what the real work being done to investigate what's happening. And if I send an email to someone, I don't want them to just throw it in the trash. Furthermore, I don't want a bunch of people going out and doing January 6th type stuff. Probably the worst possible thing for Trump and the Trump movement and MAGA was January 6th. I know, a lot of people are saying on the left it was an insurrection. The New York Post is calling it an insurrection. There's a bunch of people, many who stormed through the barricades. They did, fought with cops. There was a lot of fighting. There's one video where a guy's grabbing a cop's mask and shaking him. There's people shoving their way and fighting with cops. And it was one of the stupidest things anyone could have done. It was morally wrong. It was legally wrong. Strategic failure. Now, as I often point out, a lot of bumbling, individuals had no idea what was happening, showed up after the fighting, and the doors were opened for them. There's multiple videos where the cops open the door and say, hey, I don't agree with it, but I agree with your right to protest. There's videos of people talking with cops, and cops are like, hey, just do this for me, do that for me. So what happens is, because of the violence that was there, the left, the media has weaponized this. Now, I've said before, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, it doesn't really matter because everyone's already drawn those lines. But the last thing you'll need is to give ammunition to the propagandists. It's still sort of a recruitment battle that's happening. And it's difficult for the people on the right to actually recruit individuals to see the world they do. Regular people right now who aren't paying attention, don't know, don't care. They're not likely to know or care anytime soon. They may see some news media and CNN will tell them Orange Man bad. They'll believe it and they'll go vote. And they'll go vote for Joe Biden. How do you convince these people not to do things that are against their own interest? You need to work really hard to combat propaganda from the media. Then you see what happened on January 6th. And there's a reason why the Democrats won't let it go. They need the narrative to be Trump's movement, they're fascists, it's evil, it must be stopped, and it will only get worse. And they're driving that point home. Republicans, many, are helping them. And because of the weakness of many Republicans who side with the Democrats and the establishment, because of the weakness of Republicans who don't know how to combat that narrative and just join in the narrative, the news you will consistently get is that the establishment is good, do as you're told, Trump is bad. Then comes Michael Flynn. because of what he says, they say, see, we were right. Then Flynn comes out and says, I never said that. And they go, see, we told you they were liars. It's everything the media needs to make sure they can propagandize and bury the truth. So no, Michael Flynn, that's not what you said. You're lying. Not a fan. It's very, very difficult to weed through the chaos and the BS to figure out what's really happening, to shatter the matrix. And it's not helped by the Coup people and by things like these conferences. It's not helped. You know, the joke I make is like, if I was going to believe in any conspiracy, it's that Coup was made by the establishment to discredit Trump and his supporters. It works. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the Kraken or Trump, you know, so there'll be a military action or there's ankle monitors. And I'm like, dude, none of that means anything. None of that does anything. All it does is make you sound crazy, solves no problems, uncovers nothing, and delegitimizes you in the eyes of the court. It is just a waste of time. Oh, no, I know. People say, Tim, lab leak theory. The media said that was a lie and a crackpot conspiracy. That's right. And then now the narrative is flipping. And a lot of people are like, see, you know, you push hard enough, you keep going. No. You need to understand something about lab leak. Early on, we all talked about it. In the early days, a lot of people were saying it was possible. I said it certainly was. It makes sense. However, if you're looking at a level 4 biosecurity lab and a wet market, and you tell me it was maybe zoonotic and it came from the wet market, Occam's razor suggests it was not the lab because you've got security there. You have to make a bunch of assumptions about a breach as opposed to just people in a wet market. But we still don't know for sure. So we entertain that we don't know for sure. However, if you were to come out back then saying that it was lab leak guaranteed, then you would be banned instantly. Many people were, and then no one would hear about it at all. It is a very difficult space to navigate. And that's why I often say YouTube will ban me for saying certain things. So we set up timcast.com for the place where we can have the conversations YouTube won't allow. It's an imperfect system. I don't have all the answers. But I often tell people, if I have 100 things to say and YouTube says you can't say one of them, do I sacrifice the 99 truths because I want to say one? Or do I set up my own website where I can say the rest of it? It's tough. It is. A lot of people are like, Tim, you should quit YouTube and stop making videos here. And I'm like, why? YouTube is where regular people go to watch content. At least this is an opportunity to break through the propaganda machine and then tell people to go to other websites, listen to other YouTubers, Sticks, Hexenhammer, Steven Crowder. There's a lot of other people that you can watch. You can learn from people like Michael Malice, Michael Knowles, and you're not going to get 100% of everything, but you have an opportunity to be exposed. It's the door out of the matrix that regular people, and it's still tough. It's still tough because YouTube still filters content. It is a very difficult battle, but tact is required. And that means you can't have people like Michael Flynn saying these things. Otherwise, you give them all the ammunition they need to claim you lied. They can prove you lied. They can play the video and say you're a liar. They already take clips out of context. They already manipulate. They already encourage the violence. They want you to go nuts. And I get these people, and I love disputing this every single time it comes up. People commenting saying, you know, Black Lives Matter and Antifa went around smashing everything up for a year and they're getting what they want. And the embassies are flying the flag of Black Lives Matter. And Tim says, don't be violent. That's right. You are not the establishment elites. You are not in control of the cultural institutions and the mainstream press. So you do not get to act a fool like Black Lives Matter and Antifa does. Just because they do it doesn't mean you can. When January 6th happened, it was stupid. It was violent. It was stupid. The same as it was stupid for Antifa to go and burn down buildings. It doesn't solve anything. The problem is they have allies in media who lie and cover up what they're doing. Make it about the police. They defend them. And you know it. And you think you're going to get that? No, we are not in the era. It's not the 1600s. You don't stand in a building and then claim, ownership of government simply by being there. There's a lot more that goes into building culture, changing minds, winning hearts and minds, and winning political battles. And we are not in the era of smashing a window to get what you want. The only reason Black Lives Matter and Antifa get what they want, it's not because of window smashing. It's because the media lies on their behalf. So here's what happens. The left says insurrection 800,000 times. The Democrats come out and say insurrection 800,000 times. Instead of doing anything else, the Republicans join that conversation. Here's what should be happening. Republicans should be going every day in the House and the Senate screaming about Antifa and Black Lives Matter. When they then say insurrection, don't even converse with them. When Schumer plus says the insurrection, the commission, what do you get? You get Republicans going, no, what happened? This is politics. What they should be doing is going up and being like, the insurrection was bad. These Black Lives Matter extremists smashing up windows, $1 billion in damage here, $1 billion, damage there. In Portland, it's been endless. And then when they're like, we're not talking about that, the Republicans don't know how to control the conversation. Donald Trump could have gone on Parler at any time. He didn't do it because I almost think they don't care. They don't know. They don't care. They have given the center of the chessboard to the Democrats, and that will keep happening. And stories like this only make it worse. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Be mindful of the fourth and fifth generational warfare that we are in and how cutting through the BS is very difficult, and you need to stop the fringe conspiracy nonsense. Stand up for your principles, not let the lies break through. I'll see you all at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out.